Right, I am recording. Right, honestly, thank you so much. We had a bit of a nightmare last week, didn't we, with the time difference?
I was surprised. I was like, did I look at the message wrong?
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, it was completely my fault. I should really know what time zone I'm in, shouldn't I?
No, I mean, it happens though. Like, I even have to figure it out. I have a VA right now, like a virtual assistant, and
Oh, cool.
she's in the Philippines. So I'm like trying to coordinate with her sometimes. I'm like, what time is it there?
Yeah, you're messaging her and it's like 3 a.m. or something.
Well, or it's like late in the next day for her, right? Like,
Oh, of course.
like
Yeah,
even I think right now it's 7:30 here, so for her it's like, I don't even know, like midnight or something. It's
yeah, it absolutely baffles me. But thank you so much for finding time to come on and chat. I feel like this is going to be a wicked episode. Now, for those people that don't know, can you first of all introduce yourself, please, and give people a little bit more of an idea about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Kim Bilyk, and I'm a women's empowerment and sexual health coach. So I help women connect to their bodies and align their hormone health. So I say they can be badasses in all areas of their life without experiencing burnout.
Oh my God, I love that. And was you inspired by this because of experiences with yourself, or how did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, of course. It was definitely my own experience. So I'll give just a little bit more history. So I'm also an occupational therapist
Oh,
here
cool.
in the US. So I've been practicing that for 10 years. And let's see, 2017, I did my first bikini competition.
Okay.
So I've always been in health and fitness. I had my undergrad's phys ed, grew up as an athlete and all that. So, and I'm also a yoga therapist as well. So very like in tune with my body, into meditation and all that. And so I did my first bikini competition, really trusted my male coach. I'll say a little ignorance on my own part. I should have done just a little bit more research, but I'm like, I have a coach, right?
Yeah.
Needless to say, 2 months before my show, I lost my period. And I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, the only time my period goes off is when I travel internationally. I find coming home, I'm usually like, it throws my cycle off
Oh, wow.
2-3 weeks. And I usually suffer jet lag more coming home. Going there is fine.
Yeah, that's meant to be right though, isn't it? Coming your way from us. I think it's worse going there than it is coming back. I think that's
Yeah, it doesn't, anytime I go east, doesn't matter if I'm in Asia or where, but, and like, as you know, with your hormones, yeah, if you're not sleeping well and stuff, that could throw you off. So it always just pushes my cycle back. So I was like, oh, when I'm done this show, I'll be fine. No, it took me 5 months to get my period back. So in total, I was amenorrhea for 7 months. I went to my doctor. She just wanted to give me hormone pills. And I was like, hell no, I'm not taking anything. But I will say, like, my levels, my estrogen was so low. She's like, you're premenopausal right now. And this is at 32.
what was um what was your reasonings behind not wanting to go back onto the pill?
So I had been on the pill actually for 14 years. So I'm originally from Canada. So in Canada at age 15, I went on the pill for my acne. And I'm like, if I know what I do, like if I know what I know now, then there's no way I would have been on like the pill, right?
I think I would have gone through like a bit of like a feminist side of me as well. That would be like what I know now of just being like, hold up, why do I have to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just like give, I went to a new doctor recently and she's like, are you sexually active? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, are you in birth control? I'm like, no. And she was pushing the birth control on me like it was candy. And I like, finally, I was being like maybe a little bit sassy, but I was like, I'm a women's health coach. And I'm like, do you know that birth control like kind of messes with your gut health and it actually decreases your sex drive? She kind of looked at me and I'm like, I don't want to be on it. But so anyways, in Canada, I was on a pill called Diane 35, which is like a very low estrogen. It agreed with my body.
Okay.
And I moved to the US and they don't carry that here. So I tried a couple different birth controls here and they were like just messing with me. And so I went off, I want to say around 25, 26. And I was like, I don't want to go back on the pill type thing. And then obviously then I kind of started like my journey. No, I didn't have my health coaching yet, but I was just, as a yoga therapist and stuff, I'm like, I don't want these synthetic hormones in my body. So I refused to go on the pill. And also I was like, that's just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. That's not the problem. I knew, like, through my prep, so I was getting ready for my show. Yes, your calories and like your eating gets very strict towards the end. You decrease your fats. Like, I was on less than 20 grams of fat for 2 months, which is a huge no-no for female hormones, right? There I was, again, I said I should, a little ignorance on my part going into this first show. And what was I going to say there? Oh, so on top of that, I was working full time. I was studying. I was in the middle of my yoga therapy stuff. I was working part time. I was teaching yoga. So I had a lot on my plate.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of the stress, and then cutting the calories at the end, I say, it was like the icing on the cake. So needless to say, I healed myself through what I know. I did do acupuncture, which was very helpful, and took herbal supplements too. And I really wanted to compete again. But I was like, I don't want to lose my period. So I'm like, we need
reasons for wanting to compete again?
I just really enjoyed the journey. Okay. It's interesting because I started it because of my sister-in-law. She's like, do this show with me. She flew from Canada to LA and we did a show together. And so I am competitive, I'm not going to lie. And I was just like, the journey is so cool to watch your body transform. And to me, it was like kind of being in a meditative state. Like, you're just like so focused on something. And I just wanted to see.
So you went and did another show, right? Is that what you were saying? Sorry before I interrupted.
Yeah, I ended up doing 4 more shows.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't lose my period again.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and a big part, obviously, like, still I had to do the cuts with my nutrition, but I got a new coach and we tweaked my macros, which is like, having so much protein, so much carbs, so much fat in your diet instead of just looking at calories. Mm-hmm. And we dropped my carbs and increased my fats. So, I was like sitting at the lowest 30 grams of fat. I know that's a little bit low, but that was only for a couple of weeks before, but we stayed up at around like the high 40s for quite some time. And I was okay. I didn't teach yoga during my preps. I went for massages every week. I was just super mindful.
So it was like, it was like you were able to kind of put yourself through such an extreme process because you kind of took yourself out of like everyday life as well, right? So like not everyday life, but as in like the everyday life stresses, so you were reducing your stress in every other way.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where I say I really believe women could be a badass in all areas of your life. Our lives go through ebbs and flows, and there's certain times where one thing's going to need more focus and then another thing. So it's like really just being aware. And I mean, I do like a success list every day. So 3 to 5 things that's going to move me forward. Right now, my big focus is my business, right? So like 3 to 5 things that are going to move me forward. So you could kind of do that just with regular life. When I was in prep, obviously, like, getting to the gym was a priority for me at that time. So we just got to like move the puzzle pieces, if you want to say. And I really believe that, yeah, you could still be a CEO and a mom and an athlete or whatever, an artist, whatever you want to like fills your cup, but just being super mindful. And yeah, I was able to compete again. And the reason why I'm not competing right now, I miss it so much, but I know how much time and energy it takes, and it'll take away from my business right now, which is focus. So when I'm in a good place with my business, maybe I'll go back to competing. So it's just like I say, being really mindful, like, with where you're at in your life.
Yeah. So I'm going to dive right in. How is libido affected by the female hormones, and how can we kind of step into our power with it all a little bit more?
We kind of talked about this, and I love talking about it. So I have to.
Should we start with, like, why is having a sex drive so important, even for females? Because I feel like we're in a society where we're told to suppress it. I even saw something on Instagram that said it was the Girl Into app or something, that they posted that they were advertising an app that one of the goals was to not masturbate. And
really?
Yeah, they got so much hate on Instagram, but I was a bit like, that's weird. Yeah, so why is it so important for us to actually have a sex drive, and to, apart from the given of obviously reproducing, but like, why is it important for us women to kind of embrace it?
Yeah, there's like so much to it. Where do I even start with this? So really, actually, I know where I'll start. So our sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies.
Hold up. I've got to get extra comfy for this. I feel like I need to buckle up for this. Just go put my seatbelt on. I'm with you. Okay.
I'm like thinking, because I'm like, so I practice what I preach, and I like want to dive deeper. I'm working with a tantra coach right now, and tomorrow I'm doing a sacred yoni gem course. So I don't know if you know what yoni gems are, but I'll just explain it to the listeners. Yoni gems are actual crystals, and they look like an egg, and you actually, and there's, you know, your different crystals. There's your rose quartz, you know, for self-love, jade, calling in abundance and good luck. There's the black, I always forget the name, Oz, starts with an O, but it's like to heal traumas.
Oh, I think I've got one. I think that's one up there.
It could be. Oh, that's so cute what you have up there.
Yeah, I made this when I first moved into this flat. So when I moved into my apartment, I made it, and it's got a variety of crystals that's meant for like home and protection and love and healing.
Yeah, it looks so peaceful.
Right, we're going so off top. Sorry, everyone listening is going to be like, for God's sake, Chloe, get on with it.
So anyways, you insert these eggs into your vagina and you meditate. And it's really good, even with the eggs, if you have like weak pelvic floor. So I'm sure a lot of you ladies have heard of like Kegels. So it could help with that pelvic pain. And I mean, if you're comfortable, you could like sleep in them even, and just like have them right in your body. So I'm learning more about that tomorrow. I'm doing a course for 3 days, and it's the new moon. So I'm like super pumped.
Yeah, that's so
But so just wanted to share a little bit that, like, I just like to dive deep into this. So why is sex and masturbation and our sexuality and libido so important? As I was starting to say, like, our sexual energy is the most powerful energy we have. When we have an orgasm, think of, yeah, we create humans from that energy. Like, how crazy is that? And why should that be so taboo? The conversation of sex, like, if it wasn't for sex, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. We wouldn't be here. Like, it's just so powerful. So not only does sexual energy create humans, it creates everything. So after having that orgasm, manifest what you're calling into your life. Just, you know, like, take a moment and be like, okay, this is what I'm wanting. Visualize it, feel it, because that energy is in your space. And so, like, us women, we could create anything from that energy.
And is that why, so obviously some people are really into casual sex and others aren't. Personally, for me, if I'm not vibing, I ain't doing. And do you agree in that sense of, like, for me personally, if I'm not on the same vibe or something, it feels like I'm exchanging energy that I might say I'm burnt out, or I'm a bit stressed, or I don't want it, or I'm not vibing with that person anymore, or whatever. It's like I feel like I can't give you any of my energy, because that's what it kind of is, right? It's an exchange of energy. And I actually do believe that we should be aware of our sexual partners, because we do exchange energy in that sense. This is just in my opinion.
Yes, it totally is a sexual exchange. And yeah, you know, the word sex, or the song sexual healing, right?
Yeah.
If your partner is carrying baggage and is not a good person and hasn't cleared their own shit, you could be actually taking that in. And think, women, we are receivers.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, the male, you know, his penis is going into us and we are receiving. And I'm sure you've heard of foot reflexology. There's actual genital reflexology. And I can't remember like exactly how the map goes, but the head of the penis and our cervix are both the liver. So think when it inserts into us. And then I want to say like the next bit is the heart, and then like the kidneys. So it all connects when the penis is inside of us. So that energy could be transferring back and forth. And I mean, yeah, no judgment if you're having casual sex or not, but when you're really in tune with your body, like it sounds like you are, Chloe, and I definitely aren't. Yeah, if you're not feeling the vibe, stay away from that. Like,
yeah, like I literally go from like on to like off, and like I can't look past it. It's like, I'm sorry, but this is no more ever. Like, we're done.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so how can we, if so a lot of people, which I'm sure you know, a lot of people that listen to this and follow me have lost their periods or has suppressed themselves or has suffered from disordered eating. And I believe that a lot of the disordered eating comes from like a low self-worth. How can we step into a bit more of our sexuality and our sexual healing without feeling like we're suddenly this huge like porn star? Because society does tell us that girls should be virgins and pretty and sit still and very calm, and then on the other side they should be these sexual beasts. So like, how can we find our own little, you know, vibe with it?
Yeah. Having a self-pleasure practice. So starting simple. And I had a conversation actually with a woman last week, a potential new client. And I said to her, "What, have you ever looked at yourself? Like, have you taken a mirror and actually looked at your vagina?" And she was like, "No." And she's only 26. Like, that's like an age I feel like I'm 36 now, but I feel like that's an age where you're kind of like really starting to explore your sexuality, right? And I was like, yeah, start with just looking at yourself, and, take a little hand mirror if you have a closet mirror, whatever it is, and just like look at yourself and honor yourself, and then that's where the mirror work also comes in, saying like, "I'm sexy, I'm beautiful, I love my vagina, thank you for everything you do." Because kind of going back to that sexual energy, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Our womb space, when you stop and like drop into it, it tells us so much.
How do we drop into it?
Through our meditation practice. I literally talk to my womb in the morning. I'm like, like, "Good morning, how are you?" And there's even times like, if I'm really like thinking about something, or especially when it comes to like men and relationships. I recently just got out of a relationship and it didn't end very well.
It ended well, but I've recently got out a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, it ended well, at least you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on my half it ended well.
Well, celebrating you for that, you put your boundaries up and you honored what you need, right?
But that's what I was talking about. Like, a big element was like, "Sorry, no vibe now."
Yeah.
So you've got to go.
But I
don't mean it that bluntly either. I'm worried he might listen.
Yeah, but I think that's important because some women will be like, "Oh, well, maybe it'll work out," or like they'll want to try honor the man still. But what I'm hearing for you is like, you're like, "No, this is not for me anymore, and I need to move on."
What's your thoughts on how, because you mentioned about like exploring your body, and what if, because I read a book, is it, oh god, Come As You Are, have you read that?
No, I haven't read that one.
So, and she talks about how women have like on switches and off switches, and for like some people, like their on is really, really, so like their accelerator is like really, really slow, takes them a lot to get turned on, and then but will be really quick at putting on their brake and being like, "No." And I feel like that's me. I feel like I sometimes and I think a lot of it's to do with my hormones. So like when I'm stressed and things, my off switch is like fully off, and like there is nothing. I do not want to exchange like any energy.
So a couple things come up when you say that. So first, I'm going to say this. I'm just thinking back to your first question when you were asking about like what to do. So I was talking about you know, actually having a look at yourself,
Yeah.
doing some mirror work, and like really honoring yourself, you know, saying I'm sexy, like love your body parts. Like, what do you love the most? And what do you not really love so much, and give that body part a little extra love, right? The other thing is doing a self-pleasure practice. And I'm not saying necessarily going straight to masturbating, but just like, you know, touch your arm, touch your legs, touch your neck, your chest. Use different materials, a feather, silk, whatever it may be. Get the coconut oil if you want, like rub the inside of your legs. And then if it turns into masturbation and you giving yourself an orgasm, great. And the reason why I say this is because, and I've had conversations with women that have been married for 20 years and they've never had an orgasm from their partner. If you don't know how to please yourself, how is somebody else going to be able to please you?
Yeah.
So you got to know what you like. Like, you might like, you know, a softer touch on your neck, but you might like more of like a harder grab around your hips. So just really like diving into that. And outside of actually having sex, it could even relate to going for a massage or something that could bring pleasure and relaxation in a different way. So just really tapping into that.
Yeah, and we talk about a lot of this, like when you're looking to get your period back and when you're trying to like heal your hormones, a lot of these practices are de-stressing and a form of self-love as well, right? So like, look, no one's saying you need to go buy a Vush dildo and do whatever every single night of the week, but it might be that you have a bath or you go get a massage or something that's just helping you bring yourself back to you and to understand what you like, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know what I call it? Also creating a calm container. So just being aware of like what really relaxes you. It could be a place like going out in nature, you know, if someone's into art, going to the museum or something, people, and like you say, bass activity. So just really like tapping into those things that really like, you know, bring you out of that fight and flight response. And so then I'll even go into this, like going in, you're asking about like having a high libido and our sex drive, like why it's important. So this is why masturbation and even just having sex with your partner is important for us women. So if you do have a partner, when we have an orgasm, we release oxytocin, which is that bonding hormone. So we're going to feel more connected to our partner, which, you know, you're going to feel more love, and it's, you know, it just amplifies everything. But also when we have orgasms, like it releases those feel good hormones, serotonin. And so it's actually like a natural, if you want to say like antidepressant, you know, like it boosts our mood. And as it does that, inflammation in our body drops. So if you are that woman that gets really bad headaches and cramps around your period, it could actually help you. But now in saying that, honor your body, because then this is the other part to it. Like when we are on our bleed, our hormones are at our lowest. So we might not have that sex drive. Some women don't. So really honoring your body, but there could be a lot of benefits to having sex, masturbating, whatever it may be. And maybe it's not having sex with a partner, but just masturbating and making it into a whole self-pleasure practice and just having me time. So actually, I'm planning on doing it tonight. I'm taking myself on a date. I'm going to do a home date today, buying myself flowers. Haven't decided if I'm going to make dinner or go pick up dinner. I'm going to do an Epsom salt bath. I'm going to do yoni steam, and then a self-pleasure practice.
Yeah, I love
so just like, you know, and it's just going to be a me night for like good hour, 2 hours, and whatever it may, you know, however long I want it to be.
So this on off, how do people get a little bit more sexually, I guess, available? Like I get a lot of messages saying like their libido has increased, but that they still don't feel like they can have it. So they say like their desire, but they feel like they should suppress it, or like, you know, just having that confidence to be who they are and to want it and to enjoy it. I still do, to be honest. I would chat to my friends and I'd say like, I want it, but I don't often. I can do it myself, God, I really hope my dad doesn't listen to this episode.
My mom's not on like any social media stuff, so. So I'm going to just rewind a little bit back to the hormonal stuff that we were talking about, and then I'll come back to that. So the other thing too is honoring where we are in our cycle. Our cycle is all month. It's just not on our bleed. And we are going to have certain times of the month that we might not have as much of a sex drive. So day one of our bleed is our first day of our cycle. And from day one, moving on to we ovulate, you know, our estrogen and testosterone slowly are climbing. So that's around like days 14 and 15. That's average. I have a friend who ovulates on day 9. And the reason why she knows is because she's going through IVF. So she's been missing the window for so long and that's where and I'm bringing this up just because that's where these apps, you know, you got to take it with a grain of salt, and why it's so important to tune into our body. So like looking at our vaginal discharge, our body temperature, and, you know, these kind of things, right? So as our hormones are climbing around ovulation, nature's smart. Our testosterone is at its peak. So our sex drive likely will be highest at that point. And then after we ovulate, it starts to drop. Progesterone, if our hormones are imbalanced, progesterone goes up. So, and, you know, as we hit our bleed, like I said, we're at our lowest. So if your sex drive kind of decreases, then there's a reason. And that's where you kind of turn inward and just like honor yourself. So just wanted to give that little bit of background. You may notice, like I'm saying this to the listeners, you may notice that your sex drive may change through your cycle type thing. But really tapping into it, I mean, one question I would just throw out in general to, you know, everybody is, are you on birth control? Because that could really impact your sex drive.
Right. I had no idea how much. I remember coming off the pill and thinking, so I had actually come out of a really long relationship, and it felt as if one door closed, and I'm not joking, it felt like the universe just, like all these doors just went ping, 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 ping. Like the universe just opened all these doors. And part of that was feeling again, because I decided as soon as I came out of that relationship, I decided I was coming off the pill, because I'd been on it since I was 15 as well. And I was a bit unsure about with my fitness and stuff about whether I would even have a period. And I didn't, but so my estrogen was mega, mega low, but I still felt a shift just coming off the pill. So while I still wasn't having a period and my estrogen was still really low, just stop taking it. I was like, oh my God, I can feel something. Whereas I feel like I spent so long, there was like a phase where I felt really, really just numb and I didn't feel anything. And then there was a time when I was on a different period where I was just an anxious mess because of the pill I was on. And I'd say to everyone, like, a lot of people that are following me probably aren't on the pill because they're trying to get their periods back, or they've just recovered, or they're quite aware of those situations. But yeah, like I found the pill just completely suppressed me.
Yeah, well, because it flatlines our hormones, right? Like we don't go through the ebbs and flow. It's like I think I was talking to one of my friends is just going off it. I kind of coached through it, and I said, you know, like a heart rate monitor, you know, it goes up and down. I'm like, it just flatlines us. And it could impact our gut health, and that's where our moods could get impacted, right? Like you said, the anxiety. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was actually, there were trials for a male birth control. Yeah. And they stopped it because 5% of the men complained of mood disorder or like mood shift. And so they stopped it. And I'm like, 5%, yet 25% of women are either on antidepressants or anti-anxiety pills. 25%, they say 25% of women that are on birth control. So it's okay for us to be on it and say it's all in our head, but men can't.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on this. I am like, I just can't, I am all for, like, I believe in that it's women's responsibility as much as it is the guys. I'm all for that. But I don't give a shit if it doesn't feel the same. I'm not putting hormones into my body so it can feel better for you.
Yeah. I definitely I agree with you. That's what I told my ex. I was like, it ain't happening. so, but so that's one of the things, you know, like that's like a simple thing. Like, are you on birth control? That's something then. And like you said, pro-choice for that, but let's just make an educated decision of whether you want to be on it. Then the other thing, and I will say this is like a really big thing, is when did this decrease in sex drive start? Has it been going on for quite some time? And I say this in general with all my coaching, like, you know, the nutrition and exercise, yes, it is super important for the female hormone, you know, reproductive hormone system, but we need to go deeper. So like, what else is making you suppress your sexual desires? Is it the way you were brought up? Stuff your parents said? How did your parents act? Like, you know, it could go as simple as like, how did your mom respond to your first period even? What were your experiences as a child, through your adolescence? Did you experience some sexual trauma? I'm so open about this. I was sexually assaulted at the age of 8. It didn't affect my sex drive, but it affected me letting men into my life. Like, I'd put a wall up, like, so to get into like relationships, I was like really like held back quite a bit. So like really just tapping in. And do you have sexual shame? You know, like we were talking earlier, like society, there's so much taboo, like around talking about sex, masturbation, period sex, like any of that kind of stuff. There's so much taboo. So like, what are you taking in, and where are your beliefs and your values, and like what's really what's impacting this?
Yeah, and I guess that would make such that can affect everything, right? Even in the sense of like, I and we all laugh about it, but like that whole energy is, I when I was when I was a teenager, I was adamant I didn't want kids. And I think that's partly because I really wanted to be like my stepmom. My stepmom told me that she didn't want kids when she was a teenager. And I remember not saying it. And I feel like that's kind of how it manifested into like me not having a period. So I feel like even though that there might be a trauma, like for me, there was definitely a trauma. I'm not sure. I think it was more of like what was expected of me as a teenager, what was expected of me versus, you know, just that pressure, and then that not feeling worthy. And like, I feel like it's not right for the podcast right now, but I feel like that even though you might not have gone through some form of trauma with it, you're still replaying stories that you might have gone through when you were 8 years old, and you're still telling yourself that same story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it, you said kind of a key word that I picked up here, is you said you felt that you weren't worthy. I hear that a lot, like women thinking they're not worthy, they're not open to receiving. And that, like, as I said earlier, us as women, especially just like anatomically, we are receiving through sexual intercourse. So if you're telling yourself, even outside of a sexual context, I'm not worthy, I can't receive, it could translate into you not wanting to have sex or being open to receiving that, right?
Yeah, and
So,
I just had a bit of a ping in my brain. You know, like the masculine and feminine energy. And I know there are so many people that listen to this podcast and follow me on it that think I'm an absolute nutter for a lot of the woo-woo stuff. But if you're still with us, thank you. Stay with us for a minute. But the masculine and feminine energy, that I feel like I'm a lot in my masculine, like when it comes to like work driven and things like that. And I'm very goal, and I'm like, let's get there, that I often sway too far into my masculine and forget to dip into my feminine, which I guess would affect my sex drive as well, right? Because it's like I'm not open to receiving.
yes, definitely. And I'm like smiling because I'm like, this is some of the stuff I'm like really practicing right now. And it's like part of the Tantra world, Tantra practice. So yes, definitely. Like, so I'm sure you've probably talked about it if you've talked about feminine and masculine
Yeah, we
before.
could go into it because some people wouldn't have heard about it.
So masculine is kind of like that do. It's very linear, like straight, like this is how we're going. Whereas feminine, we're in flow. And you know what? And with me saying that, ladies, this flow and us women not being linear, honor that with your hormones as well. Like if you're happy one day and a little off the next day, as I was speaking earlier, our hormones shift throughout our whole cycle. So we don't have to be, jumping around in the best mood every day. Our hormones could shift a little bit and you could be a little bit off. It's okay. Honor it and still love yourself and just be where you are. But maybe journal and just notice if there's a pattern every month, and that maybe some changes, if you do have an imbalance, you might have to like address that. But bringing it back to the sexual stuff, yes, if you are in that masculine do, and you're not in the feminine of flow, you might not be as open to receive. So there are some things that you could do to tap into that. Okay. One is called cosmic breath. So it's, sitting in a nice, comfortable, upright position so that you could start opening up your chakras, your root chakra and your sacral chakra are your really connected with your sexual energy. So one's like the root one is basically between your vagina and your ass, like right in that spot. And then your sacral is in your womb space, right? Creativity. So let's open all that up, get ready to experience a good sexual experience. So when you breathe, you're starting right from the bottom, inhaling, imagine the energy coming up through the front side of your body, and then it comes to the top of your head, and as you exhale, it's coming down the back side of your body. So it's like a big loop. Okay. So think it's all 7, and you're just opening it up. And like, I've gone to my practice actually this morning before I hopped on this podcast. I did about a 20-minute breathwork practice. Within 10 breaths, my body starts swaying. I'm just so like tapped into that energy, and it's, the Kundalini just coming up and really opening up. So breath work, and the other 2 big pieces to Tantra is sound. So even when you're in a sexual experience, like let out the moans and all that, like, cause that gets the energy. And then movement. So dance, moving the hips in a figure 8 can really open up that space and like make you feel more sexual. Like, think of salsa dancing. Like it's a very sexual dance and a beautiful dance. So
go back to dance next week.
Oh yeah. So I would love to hear if that like switches you up. And
well, I did notice, so I used to dance as a kid, did ballroom and Latin. And then last year I embarked on a project, Become Good at Shit. And I thought, and one of my things was to try something new every month. So I decided to go back to dance, loved it. And literally, I really did feel so much more like, I guess that awakened, like, felt so much. And I was like feeling sassy. And then COVID happened.
And then COVID, yeah, trust me. Yeah, I think COVID's put a damper on a few things. Yeah, I mean, please, like, send me a message. I'd love to hear if you've noticed a shift with that, because yeah, dance could really waken you up and get that energy moving. And like I said, this is something that I've recently been studying and practicing, and it could actually increase our ability to have orgasms, because a lot of women don't have orgasms when they're with their partners. The number's higher when you're pleasing yourself, because it comes back to you knowing what you want. And that's why it's important to masturbate and do self-pleasure practice, so then you could tell your partner.
Yeah.
So if you dance before,
I was going to say, like, I feel like there's still such a difference, and I wonder if that whole receiving and letting go and feeling you're so much, like, I'm obviously so much more comfortable when it's just me than I am if there's a part, because I guess that you start telling yourself stories of like, are they judging me, what they're gonna think, what's this feel like, what does this feel like for them, and blah, blah. All these stories happen that actually ends up not great.
Yeah, and that's what stops us a lot.
Yeah, and that's not on their side, that's not their fault, it's just how much you're willing to let go, right, and receive.
Yeah, and that's where the mirror work comes in. Like, I'm worthy, I'm open to receive, and just tell yourself, like, look in the mirror, my coach, it was, I was already doing it, but it was like an assignment that we had for a whole week every time we looked in the mirror. So if I was looking in the rear view mirror at the gym, think of how many mirrors are at the gym.
Right.
Right? So, and literally I was like, I'm a badass bitch, I'm a queen, I'm worthy. Like, it was like, and you start like, when you're telling yourself this kind of stuff, 20 times a day, you're believing it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sexy, I'm sexual, I'm open to receiving. Like, just make that your mantra, whatever like connects with you.
I love that, because I always get people to try to believe in manifesting. I say, right, ground yourself, do 5 to 10 deep breaths, and then to say, okay, universe, if I'm on the right tracks, show me and it's the first thing that pops into your mind. It works every time for people. Absolutely every time, and it gets people fascinated. And I genuinely have done it so many times, and sometimes I will just do like a really random one just to check that I'm still working, that I'm still connected. And I genuinely believe, because I've done little tiny practices with this, I genuinely believe I can manifest anything I want in my life. And obviously, as long as I'm in alignment. And I feel like this is maybe something similar, right? The more times you tell yourself something, and the more times you tap into, dance or affirmations or good music or something, and you allow the self-care practices, and you get to know yourself a little bit more, the more you're likely to enjoy everything, right?
Yeah. Because you're just creating pleasure in your life, and you're bringing your vibration up. And kind of like you're saying with the manifestation, you're telling the universe, this is what I want. So the universe is just going to give you more of that. And when you notice those moments, whether, it's more dance in your life or more orgasm, whatever it may be, you tell the universe after, I want this and more.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's going to keep coming. And when these things pop up, don't be like, oh, wow, what a surprise. Be like, of course it's here, because I called this shit in.
Yeah. So you were saying about, so if we have an orgasm, that's when you're like, I want more of this, please.
Yeah. Or if that's something you were having a hard time with, like having orgasms or experiencing pleasure, when it's good, be like, yeah, I want this and more. Or on the flip side, if you are creating, like wanting something in your life after that orgasm, say, universe, I'm calling this into my life. Like, I want more of this. And so a past partner of mine, I don't know, like 3 years ago, he would practice tantra as well. So like literally after we would have sex, he'd put his hand on my head, and we would both just sit there for like a few minutes and just do our manifestation.
Oh, and did it work?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it is powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really important to say, like, that there's also, and I'm probably saying this just for confirmation for myself as well, that like, if it's not working with someone, that's okay. Like, it's not, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on girls to be a certain way. And like, if it's just not working with someone, it's just not your person, right?
Yeah, of course. And that goes back to what I was saying about really like tapping into your womb space, and just listening to her. Like, like people say, like, I have that gut feeling, or yeah, if you're feeling unsure with it, like go into a meditation and just be like, go into the meditation asking, like, is this person for me? Or, like whatever is around that situation, and just see what comes up. Like, you may not hear that voice in your head. Sometimes that kind of comes up, but just listen to how your body's reacting. Are you getting tightness somewhere, like in your heart or like on your left ovary? And just pay attention to that.
I've recently looked into my human design, and that it talks about how, like, if you sit and you do stuff based on whether it's a uh-huh or a uh-uh.
Mm-hmm.
And that has helped me so much. And well, it's actually helped me loads with like food. I obviously, when I was recovering from amenorrhea, I was having to eat a lot of food, and even if my body didn't necessarily want it because it was so underfueled, it needed it but my hormones just weren't really telling it. Whereas now I've got to the stage that I feel like I'm really in tune with, like, but I felt like I was still having habits of like forcing myself to eat something. And I was like, I don't even want this. What am I might as well just have something that I actually enjoy, or like, do you know what I mean? It's bigger of what I actually enjoy. And it's helped me so much the last few weeks of being like, right, it's time to eat. Do I want to eat this? Uh-huh. Or uh-uh. And it's like, instead of just forcing myself to eat something, it's like actually enjoying it. And I guess that all links back to that, coming back to receiving. Like, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. But if it feels good, lean into it.
Exactly. I love how you say that. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, on the flip side too, like I think of this one client I was working with, and in the fact of not feeling good, like your body will give you signs. She was with a partner, wasn't feeling it, and she kept getting reoccurring yeast infections. And she eventually finally broke up with him, and the yeast infections went away.
That's mad, isn't it?
So, and it's kind of like, I mean, that could be the extreme, but like our bodies will do, different things to give us a sign of like, this isn't right for us, or this is right for us. So, I know it sounds crazy, but just like sometimes you need to journal this stuff, or, like people that, for some people, this might seem like extreme, but like, yeah, just journaling this stuff and really like tapping into. But when you do, you'll notice, like I said, like patterns or just these little shifts that are really, I say it's the universe giving you a sign.
Definitely, yeah. And if it's doesn't feel good, it's cool. Just like get rid. Let what isn't serving you leave, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel good, this is actually something my business coach used to say: if it's not a full fuck yes, fuck no.
I love that. It's
He
so
said that to me all the time.
it's so much easier said than done though, because I can sit here and be like, yeah, I was like, fuck no. Oh, but wait, it could, and it's just like, for God's sake, just stick to something.
Well, and so, but that's when the ego comes in, right?
Right.
Like
Oh,
super, it's going to want you to keep you in that comfort zone. And I'll just use this as a quick example, and has nothing to do with sex, but I'm from Canada, and before Christmas, I was like, should I go back to Canada? Should I go back to Canada? And then first it was like, no, you shouldn't take this time off work. And then I surrendered to that. And then it was like, no, well, if you get stuck there, because obviously the world's so unstable right now. And then like, there was just like all these little things, like I'd agree to it, and then something would say no. And finally I just had to be like, no, this is what I need. And I like let that ego go. And then I went to Canada, and it was like the best decision I could make. And like this has nothing to do with sex, but it's the same type of thing. Like, our mind's going to say, our ego's going to want to give into things, and you have to sit with yourself. Might be uncomfortable, but like really decipher this stuff.
yeah, definitely. And like, it's okay if the ego creeps in every now and then. It's just learning to like bring it back and trying to be like, look, like if this voice wasn't in the head, don't question your questioning. Like
Yeah.
if you're questioning something and you've made that, or you've made a decision. And I feel like it's so much in HA recovery as well, of like that the ego steps in of being like, you shouldn't eat that, you shouldn't reduce your workouts, you shouldn't de-stress, you should go for another walk. And it's like that, in your inner being. And if you like how I'm taking your words of dropping into your womb, and if you listen to your intuition, you know what the right thing is to do. And it's the ego that's going to step in and try and keep you safe, keep you comfortable, keep you in that overworked state.
Yeah. And I mean, bringing it back to the sex, because so like, I mean, like I said, I experienced amenorrhea myself. um if you are in the beginning stages of your healing process, likely your sex drive will be a little bit low, right? Your estrogen's super, super low. There's a likely chance your testosterone might be a little bit low with that too. And just honoring that, like you were saying with the whole eating, and like nourishing yourself, like really nourishing yourself. And naturally that, that sex drive will start coming up, and like talking good to yourself, and giving so much love to yourself. And I will say this because it's something I experience, and not everyone wants to talk about it. With low estrogen comes vaginal dryness, and that could make sex uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So is that a little bit what's turning you off from having sex? Ladies, don't be afraid to grab the lube. Like, just use it. And, you know, you decide what your situation's like. But if you're not using condoms, use coconut oil. Coconut oil is amazing. And
Yeah.
I just say, because if you are using condoms, coconut oil could break the condom down. So
Okay.
yeah.
And also, like, if you're feeling stressed or you've got a shit ton of cortisol pumping around your body because you've got a lot going on right now, like, you don't have to force yourself. Like, you might the best thing you might be like need to do for yourself in that time is just go for a bath or go for a massage. Like, it's just taking the pressure of sex or orgasms or anything like that off of you as well, right?
Core, yeah, for sure. And I know it's not always easy, but like, have that conversation with your partner. They, you know, just let them know what you're going through. They weren't my partner at the time. Actually, that was the tantra guy. He was like, and it didn't affect my sex drive. Actually, like I said, I still had like a sex drive, but how I explained it, because this is when I was working as a therapist, and how I explained it to my male coworkers. Coincidentally, as a therapist at that time, I was working with all men, which is kind of unheard of. But I was very open about talking to them about, you know, going through amenorrhea. And I said, imagine this. Imagine you couldn't get hard for 7 months. How would that make you feel? And I said, I know I'm not trying to get pregnant right now, but something is wrong with my female reproductive system. Like, I'm
That's
not,
a good way to put it.
right? So like, sometimes men, they don't understand what we're going through. So if you could put it into like a context like that for your partner, they might be like, oh, okay, yeah, I could maybe relate a little bit. And they'll have a little compassion for you, and that you're not going to feel as pressured, like, I have to have sex tonight with my partner.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe just having that cuddling and that connection will bring that cortisol level, and will bring you into like that state of like, I'm safe. And then maybe tomorrow or like in a couple days, you're going to be like, okay, the sassy one in me, the sexy one in me is like, here, let's go.
Kim, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. This has been amazing. Even if everyone else is a bit like, what are they talking? I've had a great time. I could chat to you for hours about all this.
Anytime. I told you, if you want, we can hop on a call outside of this.
Yeah, I
And
think we might have to. Where can everyone find you to come and chat and
so
support?
you could, Instagram's my main platform. You could find me at Kim Bilyk, B as in boy, ILYK _. Also my website, amala-living.com. Amala means pure mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That's
Nice.
the aspect I live, and what I take my clients through, because
I
it's
love that. Yeah,
full circle.
I will leave all of your links in the show notes as well. And if you're on YouTube, then obviously down below. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please can you either rate the podcast or give us a like and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Of course, come follow us both on Instagram because we're both a bit more active on there, aren't we, Kim? And yeah, see you in my next one. Bye.